The Equality Act is a bill that's before Congress right now that would amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to include things like transgenderism and same-sex orientation. A lot of people think, well, that sounds good, we're just protecting people. Why is that particularly dangerous and dangerous to Christians?
Well, the same thing that was dangerous about, many of us knew that once the Marriage Act was upheld by the Supreme Court. It had nothing to do with the Constitution, according to Chief Justice Roberts, but 5 lawyers imposing their opinion. Once that happened, that made the Colorado Baker and all the other things happen. Human beings are 2 sexes, and you've either got the chromosomes of a male or the chromosomes of a female, and to deny that is to deny basic reality. And to put people who have what used to be called and should be called gender dysphoria under a protected class, and to say that if you discriminate, if you say no, that you're not a different sex than you were born, that you are discriminating, and we're going to open up all the restrooms and all the other facilities to be in a protected status for this. It's insanity. It's legal insanity.
It seems like, Dr. Land, one of the phenomena that we often see on the left is that they claim that they're only going this far, when what we realize is that they really have an agenda that takes them much farther. We've seen that with same-sex marriage. No. This is not, we're not forcing anything on anyone. We just want people to be able to have rights. Transgender, we're not forcing anything on anyone. Ultimately, I remember the late Charles Krauthammer said, liberals don't care what you do as long as it's mandatory. Ultimately, there is no stopping at just one small group. They want to control everything, and they want to control the Christian reaction to everything, don't they?
They want to control speech. They're acting like fascists on campus and censors. They want conformity to their viewpoint, and they want to ostracize people who disagree with their viewpoint to the level of Klansmen. They want to turn us into the ostracized equivalent of Ku Klux Klansmen. And they want to, they don't believe in diversity of thought. They don't believe in diversity of speech. They want to use the power of the state as a club to enforce their conformity on society.
That tells me as well, though, that they really do see Christians and biblical truth as being a real obstacle to their agenda. I think they do see it as a threat, and maybe properly so, because truth is the solution here, isn't it?
Well, the left and those who are statists and those who are wanting power and wanting to enforce conformity will always understand that their ultimate enemy, their ultimate opposition are Christians, because Christians are not going to give ultimate power to the state. We render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. That means that our ultimate allegiance is to God, not the state. And that is a direct threat to these statists and these fascists.
You're an educator, the seminary president of Southern Evangelical Seminary. Tell me about what you see happening on the college campuses in this country when it comes to free speech, in particular conservative and religious speech.
Well, it's just rank censorship. It's the mobocracy. It's the heckler's veto. They don't believe in free speech, and their professors have told them not to believe in free speech. They believe that free speech that is contrary to their view is hate speech, and that free speech does not protect hate speech. When I was growing up, I was always taught and always believed, look, I disagree with everything Madeleine Murray O'Hair believes, and I defend to the death her right to say it. As my parents, when I was a little boy, we'd be sitting down to eat, and somebody'd show up from the Jehovah's Witnesses, knocking on the door. And I said, Mom, how come we can't have the government stop that? And she said, son, if they can keep the Jehovah's Witnesses from doing something today, they can stop the Baptists from doing it tomorrow. So, that's just weird and unusual thought on a college campus today. They want to enforce conformity. They do not want to hear viewpoints. They want to stifle viewpoints that they disagree with. They're acting like fascist black shirts.
And there are, as you allude to, there are a fair number of academics and fair number of legal academicians on the left who explicitly say that quote unquote hate speech is not covered by the First Amendment. That's and that gives enormous power to those who sort of have the cultural currency to define what hate is in our culture.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, one person's hate speech is another person's speech of conviction. So what you have the people from the Woodstock generation, which is my generation. They're now the senior faculty, and they've taught the junior faculty, and they've taught the students their leftist view of the world, which is a statist view, and a view that wants to literally outlaw and ostracize the beliefs that upon which this country was founded.
Dr. Land, your passionate clarity is always refreshing. Thank you so much for joining us as always.
Always a delight to be with you.